After spending last season terrorizing opponents with his physicality, leading the NCAA in rebounding, and winning the Wooden Player of the Year award, Kentucky big man Oscar Tshiebwe is off to the NBA draft. Wait, what? Oscar Tshiebwe still at Kentucky?
What?
For the first time since Tyler Hansbrough back in 2008, the National Player of the Year is returning back to college basketball. Despite averaging 17 points and 15 rebounds a game for a Kentucky team that had a really good season in the same way Nathan Fielder graduated from one of Canada's top business schools with really good grades, Tshiebwe elected to return to Kentucky thanks to the new NIL rules that will net him close to $2 million and to the general uncertainty regarding his NBA outcome. With that combination, Kentucky gets another year of Oscar Tshiebwe, who just had one of the most dominant seasons of college basketball in recent memory. While Tshiebwe had a phenomenal individual season though, it didn't really end the way he or Kentucky had hoped, as they lost to 15-seed St. Peter's in overtime in the first round of the NCAA tournament. This loss, however, was no fault of Oscar, as he torched the Peacocks for 30 points and 16 rebounds in 43 minutes. This upcoming season brings new hope to Lexington in the form of familiar faces. Headlined by the aforementioned Tshiebwe, Kentucky also brings back key contributors like Xavier Wheeler and Jacob Toppin, and most major media outlets slot the Wildcats as a top 10 team heading into the upcoming season. But the performance of this version of Kentucky will once again largely depend on Tshiebwe's continued consistency as a top player in the country. So let's get to know Oscar's game a little bit better and see if this Kentucky team can live up to their lofty expectations. Welcome to the Rebounding. Tshiebwe began his college career at West Virginia after he emerged as a high-end 4-star prospect out of Pennsylvania. His first season as a Mountaineer went pretty well, as he started all 31 games for Bob Huggins and averaged around 11 points and 9 rebounds per game, both of which led the team despite him only playing around 23 minutes per contest. He entered his sophomore season poised to be one of the best big men in the country, but after 10 games that saw his numbers and minutes decline due to the emergence of Derek Culver and Bob Huggins' fresh desire to play smaller, Tshiebwe decided to transfer mid-season, a decision that ultimately led him to Kentucky. While Oscar was expected to be a high-impact player in Lexington, I don't think anyone really foresaw a National Player of the Year level season. And that's fair because Oscar isn't a typical NPOY when you look at his numbers and his playstyle. Since the Wooden Award was first given out in 1977, Tshiebwe's 17.4 points a game was the fourth least among winners, the lowest being fellow Kentucky big man and former #1 overall pick Anthony Davis. The story of Oscar's season came on the glass, where he grabbed 15.2 rebounds a game, leading the country in rebounds per game, offensive rebounds per game, and defensive rebounds per game. So that's where we should start. Lots of players are great rebounders, but you can't post the numbers that Tshiebwe does without elite anticipation. It seems that Oscar just knows where the ball is going to land off the rim before his opponent even knows a shot is going to miss. Watch him snag this rebound despite being the third closest person to the rim. And here he high points the ball over Mark Williams despite Williams having a 9'9" standing reach. Look at how quickly Tshiebwe gets off the floor compared to Williams. This is all about anticipation. This Rodman-like ability to react to misses pairs extremely well with his physicality. Tshiebwe's stout 6'9", 260-pound frame allows him to dislodge players using his lower body strength. Watch here how he makes Mitch Lightfoot look like Mitch Lightweight. He's also savvy enough to use his opponent's momentum as a springboard to better positioning and to immobilize his opponent using his hands. He's dirty enough to create an advantage, but not dirty enough to get called for excessive fouls. Tshiebwe's rebounding naturally gives Kentucky loads of extra possessions. Kentucky ranks second in the country in offensive rebounding percentage, grabbing around 38% of their misses as a team. When Tshiebwe was on the floor though, he grabbed 19.4% of his team's misses individually, a mark good for best in America among players who played at least 50% of their team's minutes. Over the course of the year, Tshiebwe brought down a total of 180 offensive rebounds for the Wildcats. I tracked every single one of these rebounds and found that his efforts gave Kentucky 160 extra shots over the course of the season. I'm calling this metric Oscar, or offensive shots created after rebound. By getting almost 5 Oscars a game, Tshiebwe's efforts alone basically created 2.5 additional games worth of shots for Kentucky. And these efforts kept the Wildcats in the top 10 of offensive efficiency despite them not having a lot of shooting on the roster. More on that in a minute. But of course, Tshiebwe wasn't just the player of the year because of his rebounding. He also served as Kentucky's leading scorer and primary low-post option. While a lot of Tshiebwe's points came from second-chance opportunities, he also succeeded as a roll man and as a post-up scorer. Enjoy watching Ty Washington and Oscar Tshiebwe running pick and roll to perfection. He also showed some ability to step out to 18 feet and knock down catch-and-shoot jumpers. A lost art in today's game, but still a useful weapon in certain situations, especially late in the shot clock like this one against Alabama. He also thrives as a rim runner because of his outstanding motor. If you watched any Kentucky game this year, you most likely noticed Oscar constantly sprinting down the floor looking for easy baskets. That being said, I do think Kentucky could have done a better job rewarding him in these instances. Like this early season opportunity against Duke, Xavier Wheeler had a pretty easy drop-off pass. Overall, Tshiebwe's activity as a rebounder and hustle guy opens up a lot of scoring opportunities, thus making him a top-tier offensive weapon in the college game. His activity also shines defensively, as his overall energy and effort level helps conceal some of his athletic deficiencies in space. Watch here how he's able to contain JD Notae on the drive and then recover and block Au'Diese Toney at the rim. Despite his strengths though, Oscar Tshiebwe is thought to have a hard time fitting into the NBA that values space and skill. While his rebounding and effort will be useful in the NBA, it still isn't enough to make leaving Kentucky the best option for him at this current moment. Tshiebwe needs to improve as a decision maker in the post, as too often you'll see him losing the ball and missing passes out of double teams. And defensively, he isn't big or explosive enough to be a dominant rim protector at his position, a must for a viable non-shooting NBA big man. In space, he can also be a liability as his foot speed and lateral movement gets him in trouble when trying to contain drivers. This is a miscommunication on defense from Kentucky. Kellen Grady thinks that they're in ice, while Oscar Tshiebwe believes he is hedging the screen. The problem is that it leaves a wide open lane for Wendell Moore's easy dunk. Tshiebwe doesn't have the foot speed or mobility to correct these mistakes, so his margin for error is smaller. Still, these are minor flaws given Tshiebwe's overall impact, but the question still remains as to whether or not John Calipari has built a roster capable of supporting Tshiebwe's playstyle. In order to make the most of his production, Kentucky needs one thing: shooting. It was an issue last year as the team only hit 34.7% of their threes, but another issue is that only 28% of Kentucky's field goal attempts were three-pointers, a mark good for 9th worst in America. Kentucky also ranked in the bottom 30 of Shot Quality's rim and three rate, which is a measure of the percentage of shots taken at the rim or from three. So for Kentucky, it wasn't only an issue of three-point accuracy, but also an issue of three-point volume. This was a major factor in their loss to St. Peter's, as Kentucky only hit 4 of 15 shots from three. Players like Tshiebwe operate best in space, so it's important for Kentucky to have shooting around the perimeter in order to let Oscar go to work in the post. This year, though, looks to be better on paper from a shooting perspective. Iowa transfer CJ Frederick had to sit out all of last season due to injury, but in his 2 seasons as a Hawkeye, he drilled 46.6% of his threes on around 3.5 attempts per game. Illinois State transfer Antonio Reeves was a 20-point-a-game scorer last year and knocked down 39% of his three-point attempts on close to 6 tries a game last year, and Kentucky also brings in 2 5-star freshmen in Cason Wallace and Chris Livingston. Wallace is known to be a terrific all-around offensive player, as he's seen as a potential lottery pick in the 2023 draft. He plays at a breakneck pace that reminds me of a more physical version of Kobe White. Livingston is a built wing who is more of an off-ball forward but can still score well, as he averaged around 14 points a game at Oak Hill in NIBC competition. As a team, Kentucky hasn't shot over 36% from 3 since 2016, but I think this roster has a very good chance to break that streak, and that makes the Wildcats a legitimate national championship contender. Of course, all of this is still ancillary, because the engine of this Kentucky team will once again be Oscar Tshiebwe, who will be in a position to win back-to-back Wooden Awards for the first time since Ralph Sampson in 1983. And remember, when Tyler Hansbrough returned to school in 2008, North Carolina won it all in 2009, and I imagine that Oscar Tshiebwe will be hoping to accomplish the same thing in 2023. Thanks for watching, and give me your thoughts below.